I appreciate you being here. I hope you're doing well. This video is about the 10 stages of FIRE. I want to talk about the different stages of the FIRE journey and where we stand right now. In this video, I am going to do a review of the FIRE principles, provide a summary of the different types of FIRE journeys, because of course there's more than one way to FIRE. I am going to discuss the 10 stages of FIRE before you reach that ultimate financial goal and all of the steps that you go through in order to reach your goal. I am also going to talk about when we achieve them or when we will achieve them, depending on where we are on a FIRE journey, because obviously this is an ongoing journey for us and we haven't reached it yet. And then I am going to share some characteristics of Americans who are most likely to be at that FIRE stage. In addition, I'm also going to run an age-based and an income-based FIRE scenario using some data for people who are in my age group. And then towards the end, I'm going to be revealing my own FIRE number. But first, here's a little bit about me. Hi, welcome to my channel. Thank you for watching. Here's a little bit about me. My household consists of myself, my husband, and my toddler. My mom also lives with us, but she's not included in our finances. We live in a high cost of living city in the Northeast. My husband and I both went to graduate school, but fortunately, we no longer have student loan debt. I work in banking and he works in aviation. I take care of the family's finances and I love my role as the self-appointed CFO. I love to talk about all things money, whether it's investing, saving, or making money. I look forward to sharing a wealth building journey with you. I look forward to getting to know you, and I hope you enjoy this video. As you know, FIRE is an acronym that stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. The principles of FIRE are frugality and a high savings rate, and the goal is to exit the traditional workforce well before the typical retirement age of either 65 or 67. There is more than one way to FIRE. I made a video about that and I can absolutely link it in the description box below. And as a quick refresher, there is the first thing that people think of when they think of FIRE, which is what I call the OG FIRE. There is lean FIRE, there's barista FIRE, there's coast FIRE, there is chubby FIRE and fat FIRE. Chubby FIRE and fat FIRE are both essentially pretty much like the regular FIRE, with the only difference being you're looking for a much higher spending in retirement. So why am I making this video? This video is to remind you that FIRE is also a journey and not a destination. It's not about going from point A to point B. You need to remember that all journeys have milestones. It's a long journey. Some people take longer than others, but the reality is almost everybody who does FIRE, unless they get some kind of windfall, their FIRE journey is something that is years in the making. A lot of people are documenting their journeys, but honestly, I feel like it's not enough because money remains a taboo concept in our society. We are afraid to talk about money. We're afraid to talk about our net worth. We are embarrassed to tell people what we earn or how much debt we have. So although it's happening, it's not happening enough. So I decided that I was going to throw my hat in the ring and discuss my own journey. It also helps me to have accountability for myself, and it's a way for me to document the process and to look back on where I started, or at least where I am now compared to where I will be in the future. Of course, I want to encourage people because it's not just the destination that matters, the milestones matter as well because they help you to highlight your progress. I have come a long way, and I think intuitively I knew that, but I never really sat down to consider how long my journey has been and how much progress that I've made until I actually sat down to make this video, because I had to go back in time and think about where I was at different stages of my life and at different ages of my life as well. But remember, comparison is the thief of joy. Everybody has milestones, and milestones are going to be very similar, but the timing of your milestones are going to be very different given your lifestyles, whatever opportunities that you have, your challenges, and your support system. You will have the same milestones, but you may not hit them at the same time as somebody else. You may be way ahead of schedule, or you may be a little bit behind. This is just designed to be inspiration, not comparison. All right, so let's get started. The first stage of FIRE is when you are totally financially dependent on somebody else. You rely not on your own income to meet your basic needs, but on the income of someone else, whether it is a parent, whether whether you are on social assistance or whatever. The idea is that it is not your money that is taking care of you and meeting your needs. In my case, I was totally financially dependent on somebody else from the time that I was born until I turned 21 years old. From that period, I was largely a full-time student, and then I held different part-time jobs. Of course, I was bringing in income, but part-time jobs at minimum wage were not paying the bills. So I did a little bit of research on what the fully dependent demographic looks like. It looks like I was in good company because according to the Pew Research Center, only 24% of people are fully independent by age 22. I was in the 76% of people who were dependent when I was 21, and that is pretty much in line with what we would have expected. If you are enjoying this video so far, don't forget to hit the like button so the algorithm knows that it's good, and of course subscribe for more content. If you think any of the information that I provide here might be helpful to somebody else, be sure to share it with them. The second stage of FIRE is what I call financial solvency. You may have a negative net worth, but your income is sufficient to cover your basic needs. You may also be living paycheck to paycheck. You're probably wondering, how can you be financially solvent if you're living paycheck to paycheck? Well, the whole idea is that at least your paycheck can cover your needs and you're not in the red every month. In my case, I was financially solvent between the ages of 21 and 23. At that point, I graduated college and I had full-time employment. But the reason why my net worth was negative was because I had student loans from undergraduate school, and I also had a small car loan. In looking at the demographic of people between the ages of 18 to 24, which would have been my age group at the time, there was an average net worth of $28,707 and a median net worth of $8,216. Keep in mind that this does include the equity in your house, but at the time I did not have a house, so it wasn't really all that comparable, but that was the best data that I could find. But it looks like I was closer to the 25th percentile. So these are the people who do have the negative net worth, a net worth of negative $1,415. And if you want another comparison, approximately 61% of all Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Stage 3. Stage 3 is financial stability. At that point, your net worth is break even or ideally positive. Of course, it's not in a vacuum. You are building upon the previous stages that you had. In the previous stage, you were meeting your needs and you were not in the red every month. Financial stability continues to build upon that. You are still doing these things, but your net worth is now break even or it is positive. In my case, I achieved that goal after the age of 23. Starting at the age of 23 and up, my net worth has been either break even or positive. I have been fortunate to have full-time employment. My student loans were paid off and my car was paid off. Approximately 70% of people ages 18 to 24 have a net worth above zero. All of the information that I am posting here, I am going to link it in the description box below. That particular data is from the Federal Reserve Bank Survey of Consumer Finances. It comes out every 3 years. Before that, it was 2016. This one is from 2019. The next one is going to be from 2022, which evidently has not yet been published. The fourth milestone that you are going to reach is going to be when you are debt-free with the exception of your mortgage. At that point, that is considered not having consumer debt, especially high interest credit card bills, and or having an emergency fund. The reason why I'm saying or is because debt is considered an emergency. If your emergency fund is not fully funded because you're looking to pay down really high interest debt, I think we can still consider you to be working towards your debt-free status. In my case, above the age of 23, that's when I achieved that. Not only were my student loans and my car loan paid off, I also had my credit cards that were paid in full every month. I did use credit cards. I got my first credit card when I was like 19, but I paid them in full every month. I considered myself debt-free at that point. The average debt for Gen Z, which would be people considered 24 years old and younger today, is $16,000 excluding mortgages. In the fifth stage of FIRE, that is what I consider to be financial security. Financial security is when you have enough disposable income to afford non-necessities and improve your quality of life. In my case, I consider myself reaching financial security when I turned 20 28. At 28 years old, I had enough in savings to buy my first home with a 20% down payment. This is a point where I achieved a major milestone by becoming a homeowner. I also had an emergency fund, and on top of that, I had some additional savings in order for me to go on vacation with my friends, have dinner, and maybe purchase things that I would have wanted to buy, maybe didn't buy in the past because I was working towards that specific goal of saving for being a first-time home buyer. The comparable demographic for me would be people who are ages 25 to 29 years old. 70% of them have a positive net worth. The net worth for people ages 25 to 29 in the United States today, including their home equity, is an average of $49,388. The median net worth is $7,512. Of course, the median is always going to be lower than the average because the people who are at the very top will really skew the numbers when you average them out. But I also wanted to throw an extra piece of data in there for you because I think it is good for people to be reminded of certain things. It's not just about your age, but it's also about what you bring in. The median income for somebody 35 years old and under is $48,870. For the sixth stage of FIRE, you are continuing to build on these other stages. You begin to save for long-term needs. In this case, I'm talking about setting goals and working towards goals like saving for retirement and college. I was in my 20s. I was contributing to an employer-sponsored retirement plan. Of course, it does not mean I only started saving at the age of 28. That is when I started saving aggressively. When I was 21 and I was saving for retirement, I was only getting the employer match because that's all that I could afford, or at least that's all I could afford while working towards my other goals. I was paying down student loans, I was paying off a car loan, I was saving for buying a house. I really couldn't do much more. However, once I started crossing these goals off my list, I ended up having more room in my budget for additional savings. And even though I now no longer have an employer match because I've switched employers, I now make enough money to not just contribute to a retirement account, but I am also maxing out every year, and I am also maxing out a Roth IRA. And since in my case, I consider myself reaching that age at the age of 28 and later, the demographic information that we are considering is for people who are 35 and under. The median retirement account balance for somebody who's 35 and under is $13,000, and the average is $30,170. But one piece of information that I did find interesting is that only 45% of the people who are 35 and under have retirement accounts. Although I understand that not everybody has an employer-sponsored plan, everybody can open an IRA. So this is actually a pretty staggering piece of information. I'm not sure if it's a function of people not being aware of the account type, or if it's a matter of not being able to save for it because at that age, you may potentially still be paying down student loans. You may not be able to afford the extra savings. But it did seem very interesting and kind of alarming that 55% of people under 35 have no retirement accounts whatsoever. Stage number 7 is post-FIRE. Post-FIRE is when you have enough in retirement to support a traditional retirement age without any additional contributions. Some people make post-FIRE their goal, and for some people, post-FIRE is not enough. But either way, everyone at some point reaches post-FIRE. There is a point that everybody reaches where if they stopped contributing today, they would still be able to retire at a traditional age. The only difference between people who accept post-FIRE and people who don't are the people who continue to contribute to their accounts in order to lower their retirement age. But everybody has a post-FIRE number. Whether or not they decide to stop there is a personal choice. In my case, I am currently in post-FIRE. It does not mean that is when I reached it. I did not just reach it. I actually have no clue when I did. Although I was diligently contributing to my accounts, I wasn't tracking them all that closely, so I actually don't know when I achieved it. But I am currently in post-FIRE. But I did want to share some of the events that happened in my life between the time that I reached stage 6 and the time that I reached stage 7. First, I got married, which resulted in a dual income household for the first time in my entire life, because when I was a kid, my mom was actually a stay-at-home mom. That dual income allowed us to increase our savings rate. We went from employer match to 15% to maxing out retirement accounts for both of us, paid off my graduate student loan debt. Then I began contributing to a 529 because we did also have a child in that time frame. And since I'm currently Specifically in CoastFire, I am going to share some demographic information for people who are in my age group, which would be the age group of 35 to 44. Almost 56% of people in my age group have retirement accounts, which does show that perhaps the reason why the younger group doesn't have one might have to do with the fact that you're so close to college, you might still be paying off those loans. The median retirement account balance is $60,000, and then the average retirement account balance is $132,000. As for income, median income is $73,300, and the average income is almost $111,000. But before we move on to stage 8, let's talk about what is possible for people in my age group given the information that we have. Is CoastFire a possibility? Let's look at some numbers. We're going to consider the following assumptions. My current age of 35 with a projected retirement age of 67. 67 is not an arbitrary number. According to the Social Security Administration, there is what they call a full retirement age, and that full retirement age is based on when you were born. The younger you are, the older your full retirement age is. And for people in my age group, my full retirement age is 67. I am estimating an income replacement rate of 80%, which is pretty typical of what people would suggest that you use for your calculation. We're going to do an investment growth rate of 7%, an inflation rate of 3%, estimate a safe withdrawal rate of 4%, and that safe withdrawal rate is based on the Trinity study. These CoastFire assumptions are going to be the same for the scenarios that I'm going to be using. I'm going to use a median calculation and then an average calculation. For the people who earn the median income and who have the median retirement account balance, I'm going to estimate contributions of 20% of their income, and that's going to consist of a 15% contribution and a 5% employer match. For people who have the average, I am going to say that they're going to max out all of their tax advantage accounts. The reason why I'm doing it differently is because people with the median are on a much lower income scale and have a much lower retirement account balance than the people who are at the average. It is not really realistic for us to use the exact same assumptions and the exact same monthly contribution estimates for them to assume people who have twice as much money are going to contribute the same amount as the people who have half as much. All right, if we look at the first scenario here, I am going to call this person Median Mary. Median Mary is going to have $60,000 in retirement and $73,000 in income. If Median Mary plans on working until she's 67, that is 32 years of work. With an income replacement rate of 80%, we are estimating an annual spending of $58,000, and with a 20% contribution rate where 15% comes from Mary and 5% comes from Mary's employer, Mary is looking at contribution amount of $1,230. Is CoastFire possible for Median Mary? The answer is no. It doesn't mean that Mary can't retire. She'll be able to retire fine and comfortably. However, she's gonna have to keep saving until she reaches that retirement age. There truly is no room for her to stop saving. That retirement balance is simply too low. Now let's consider our next CoastFire candidate. Our next CoastFire candidate is somebody by the name of Average Adam. Average Adam, just like Median Mary, is 35 years old, and he has a retirement account balance of $132,000. He also earns $111,000 in income annually. If he plans on working until the age of 67, that is 32 years of work, the same amount of working years as Mary. His annual spending is going to be a little bit higher. We're using the same 80% replacement rate. He does have a much higher income. We are going to estimate his monthly contributions to be $4,400. Now let me tell you how I arrived at that number. As I previously stated, it is not reasonable to expect somebody who makes almost twice as much to be saving the exact same amount of money. That $4,400 is a combination of factors. First, we assume that the employer is going to provide a match just like Median Mary, but we also assume that Average Adam is going to be maxing out his employer-sponsored retirement plan at $20,500 and also maxing out an IRA. Whether it is a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA, we are assuming that he's going to be putting some extra income towards an IRA in addition to his employer-sponsored plan. And finally, Average Adam may or may not have a spouse for whom whom he decides to contribute to a spousal IRA. Even if he doesn't, he still has the option of contributing to a brokerage account, and combined comes to approximately 47 or 48% savings rate. Not that uncommon in the FIRE community. The question is, will he be able to achieve Coast-FIRE? And the answer is yes. At 47 years old, average Adam will have a net worth of $1 million. He will not have to save anymore. For the next 20 years, he can go in complete cruise control, and he will have enough in his accounts to live a comfortable lifestyle in retirement just based off the growth that will happen over the next 20 years. Stage 8 is what I consider to be full financial independence. That is the point at which where cash flow from your investments are enough to meet your basic needs. For me, that is the next milestone. I'm not quite there yet. Cash flow from my investments most certainly do not meet my basic needs. As far as the average demographic, here's what I found. I am doing an age range of 35 to 64. The vast majority of people who FIRE are typically between those ages, ranging from 35 to 54. I know it might seem like a lot of people in their 20s are completely early retired, but there are a couple of factors that you need to consider. For starters, they are outliers. That is very rare. Some of them might be doing lean FIRE, some of them might be doing barista FIRE, operating other kinds of businesses. If we are sticking with either traditional FIRE, chubby FIRE, or fat FIRE, that is not the vast majority of people. And also, some of these influencers are making six figures or even millions on their online businesses. So not only are they still technically working, they really are the 1% of the 1%. The vast majority of people are not retiring early before their 30s. In the personal finance community, you are in an echo chamber. You might feel like everybody's doing it, but that's because that just happens to be the community that you're in. The majority of people at large, that's not the case for them. I also selected 55 to 64. That is not FIRE. I feel like once you're above 55, you are much less of an outlier than the younger people. But given that the full retirement age is between 65 and 67, and the fact that most people really do not retire before 62, I think that it is fair to consider some statistics for that age as well. So with that said, 35 to 44, as I mentioned before, your income is between $73,000 for median and $110,000 on the average. Your median net worth is $91,110, and your average net worth almost $438,000. Your retirement account balance is between $60,000 and $132,000. If you are between the ages of 45 and 54, your median income is $78,400, and the average income for people between the ages of 45 and 54 is $145,000. The median net worth for people in that age group is $168,000, and the average net worth is almost $834,000. They have a median retirement account balance of $100,000 and an average retirement account balance of $255,000. And finally, people who are 55 to 64, they have a median income of $63,000 and an average income of $130,000. Their median net worth is $213,000, and the average net worth being the highest average net worth that I've seen so far, over $1.1 million. They have retirement account balances at $134,000 for the median and over $408,000 on average. For stage 9 of FIRE, that is what I consider to be financial freedom. Financial freedom is when cash flow from your investments exceed expenses to meet your basic needs. You're probably wondering, what is the difference between stage 8 and 9? The difference is, are you barely meeting your basic needs or are you exceeding your basic needs? For me, there's a huge difference there. If you're financially independent, you are no longer dependent on your job to get by. If things go wrong at work, if you're being abused, if you don't like your working conditions, if you have to make some tough choices, you can decide to walk away. But you might be one market crash, one tragedy, one unexpected expense away from financial peril. To me, that is not what I'm trying to achieve, because we've seen the dot-com bubble burst, we've seen the Great Recession, we've seen the COVID crash, and who even knows what is going on with all this Russia madness today. I don't like living on the edge. I like to have a buffer. Just being able to meet your your basic needs is a huge milestone. It's a great way to be able to take a breath and know that if you have to make some tough choices, your job will not have to take precedence because you're gonna go hungry if you're not there for a month, a year, or whatever. But financial freedom is really when you can generate more than you need. And that extra buffer is the freedom, because if there's a dip, you don't have to worry about it. I am not there yet, but that is when I will be reaching my FIRE goal. And this is the big reveal, drum roll please, of my FIRE number, which is 2.5 million. If we're looking at the demographics of people who have that net worth, that would put you in the top 5% of wealth in the United States. The people who are at that net worth or above typically either own small to medium-sized businesses, or they tend to be in white-collar professions like medicine, dentistry, law, finance, or engineering. And finally, 50% of the top third income earners have graduate degrees. This isn't designed to be a PSA in favor of college. I know that college is becoming increasingly more controversial these days, especially since so many people are being crippled by student loan debt. You certainly do not need a college degree in order to open a small to medium-sized business, or even to grow a small business into a medium-sized one. But given that a lot of people in that wealth bracket are in the medicine, dentistry, law, finance, and engineering, you're looking at a lot of career fields that might require a degree. But then again, it's only 50%, meaning that the other 50% certainly does not have graduate degrees, and some of them probably didn't go to college at all. And finally, stage 10. Stage 10 is what I call financial abundance. That is when you reach the top 1% of wealth. In the United States, according to the most recent data, in order to be in the top 1%, you would have to have a net worth of $11.1 million or above. And given how common the term 1%er is in our lexicon today, I don't think I need to tell you who the 1%ers are. I think you know. And that's a wrap for today. As promised, anything that I reference in this video is going to be linked in the description box below. I'll see you in the next one.